You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. Before we proceed, allow me to take a moment to ask you, our listeners, to tweet us at BHPhotoVideo with hashtag BHPhotoPodcast and rate us on iTunes. We really love doing this show, and your feedback enables us to make it that much better. Today, John Harris and I will be talking about selfies, a genre of photography that some people adore while others abhor. Our guests are Stephen Mays, writer, strategist, executive director of the Tim Hetherington Trust, and all-around go-to guy for all aspects of photography. How do you like that? Is that good?
That's great.
We are also welcoming photographer Nikki Wanzi, whose recent series called Living in New York has gotten well-deserved attention, including a mention in the just-released PDN 2016 annual. Welcome to both of you. I'm going to admit that I've taken selfies. I actually remember the very first one I did. I was back in school, and I did a close-up of a shiny brass a doorbell that had the word private engraved on it, and you could see my reflection, and it pretty much summed me up. I still have a print of it laying around somewhere. I've also taken selfies with friends and family, but never with the Empire State Building, okay? Nikki, let's start with you. Your work is really, really amazing. You use self-portraiture to depict not only yourself, but two of your best friends as you go through your day-to-day activities in New York. I get the impression that you're familiar with the new town, but there's also a longing to be with friends back home and the comfort of being back in Singapore. What made you turn the camera on yourself? What was the starting point? How did you get into that?
Well, actually, I'm an introvert, so I don't really like to approach people or take photos of random people, strangers, because I'm afraid of being rejections. People might come in front of me and say, "Hey, why do you take my photo? Hey, just delete it off." So I need to do a project. Why not use myself as a subject, documenting myself in New York City, since I'm new here and there's a lot of things to explore. I have two best friends in Singapore, and we used to try go and play a lot, eat dinner, play basketball, travel a lot. So I decided to use them as my subject as well. But of course, I can't fly them over, so I decided to use myself to act as them.
Stand-ins.
Have they seen the photos?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and what did they say?
They are very happy with it, and they say they are very touched that I use them as a subject as well.
Did they recognize themselves in a way?
Yeah, they kind of. They know that because each character in the photos are very distinctive. Three of us, although we stick together as a unit, but three of us, the characters is so different.
And how did you feel when you kind of took on their roles? Did you feel like you were just a statue standing in that place, or did you actually kind of start to feel like you were taking on their personalities?
Well, I feel like I really feel like them at all. I try to make myself go into their shoes, really be like them, and what would they react when something happened and stuff like that. So actually, the photos in the series took quite a while to shoot it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about the technique that you use?
I'm
the
really
gear?
curious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the technique actually, when I found a spot that I really want to shoot, so I put my camera on the tripod, frame it, and then I'll just go into the frame and then set on timer, and then shoot. I'll be myself first, and then the next scene I will be my friend, which is standing at the other side, and then the next scene I will be another friend standing at the other side. So I'm basically framing myself, and I know who should stand where, who should be where, what stuff they are doing, reaction, emotions, stuff like that. And then after that, got the images, go into the Photoshop, and composite them into one photos.
That's how it's done. What camera gear are you using? Just curious, because you're not using a phone, that's for sure.
Of course not. I'm actually using a Canon 5D Mark III. No lights, using natural light. So it's very simple setup. Yeah.
I wanted to just get back to your point about documenting the world around you and interacting with people. Is that something that you are trying to get over? Is that something that you're working to? Because I think every photographer goes through that. At least people who are interested in street photography and news and documentary, they have to find that way to
Break through the wall.
break through the wall, break the ice,
Yeah.
and not worry about necessarily what other people will be saying and thinking. And when people say no, you just go on to the next one. Is that something that you want to be able to approach and address, or it's not really your interest?
Well, I mean, in future, I would want to do like commercial photography or fashion, like something. I want to shoot something like beautiful, like Gregory Crewdson is one of my very big influencers. I want to like plot my own story, fix like everything, get control of the set, like get control of the model, the talent, the props, every single thing.
Right.
It always interests me when people go to that length to set things up as the way you want. How do you feel when people respond to it in different ways? I mean, because obviously you have an idea, a very clear idea of what you're trying to establish, and you're controlling every element, but you can't control how people read it. What kind of reactions do you get?
Well, I mean, some people might not understand how I do photography. Like some people might not understand the story behind, and then they will just say that, oh, it's just a nice photo. And while other like photographer will try to like read the story behind, like know the image and read the story behind, what does it say. So I mean, well, if you don't get it, then that's too bad, I would say. Yeah.
And do you feel that the photos are successful as a self-portrait, as showing something from deep inside or something of yourself?
The story is very strong, stronger than what the previous project that I've done, and I really like this project in terms of the cinematic view, the composition of the photos, and like the editing of it as well. Yeah, the retouching of skills and stuff like that. Yeah, I really like the whole series of it.
You use the word cinematic, and your work really is cinematic. You get the feeling that you're looking at a film production that was going on, just a little snap still from it. And the storyline is, even if, it's really funny, it doesn't matter what other people think of what the storyline is, because I think one of the weirdest things is if you ever had an exhibition of your work and you stand off to the side and listen to what people are saying about your work, you just have to crack up, because everyone interprets it differently.
Yes.
But I know I personally look at your work and I'm just seeing all of these scenes. I love looking through them and everything in the background, not just you and what the multiples of you, but the way things are set up. There's a great depth and dynamic to them. There really is.
Thank you.
And are you surprised by the attention that this series has gotten?
Yes, I do actually. I thought, like, you know, as a student, this is my very first work. I didn't know that it's gonna be so big up. Like to go on an award is really a very big thing for me, and it's like a small step up to, you know, another level of like photography, and it also gives me like a little bit of pressure if I don't give up, like if I don't do more work, like produce more good work, I will be like, you know, very stagnant and down, and it will be back to zero again.
But here's a question. I mean, you say you're an introvert, and I understand that, why you don't want to approach people, and yet you're creating a profile for yourself by exposing yourself in the most intimate possible way. And I wonder whether that profile that you're revealing, is that really you, or is that some kind of facade or an act which you're putting out as an introvert to hide behind, or is that really you?
Well, I mean, it's really me
question.
doing stuff like that. Like, although I'm introvert, but I'm not those extreme kind that I don't really like. I really stay at home, don't go out and stuff like that. It's just that I don't like to approach people. Yeah, that's the thing. And I mean, I don't mind people to know my side of me. So I mean, actually, I didn't really think of so far that this series would go out to like get everyone's attention of like in this industry.
And at this point now, do you think that as you continue to make pictures, does it now become more like a performance than a self-exploration?
Yeah, I would say that it's a performance instead of self-explorations. Yeah, it's more like I want to, like, I have a story in my mind, and I tend to, you know, try to make it out visually to let people to read it visually. Yeah.
And do you shoot selfies?
I do selfies,
Yeah.
but in much more of like, a relaxed way.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, self-portrait is like, for me, self-portrait, I feel that I have to plot and plan everything and think of a storyline and plan where should I stand and my props, what should I put in and stuff like that. Well, selfie is much more of a relaxing way. Like, oh, I'm at this city, I'm at this place, I take a selfie and send it to my friend. It's very different from self-portrait. Like, self-portrait needs more effort in planning. Well, selfie is much more of a, okay, this place is nice, I should take a selfie and send it to my parents or relative or friends.
I'm looking at your Instagram feed here, and I'm noticing that you have a selfie face.
Yes,
that you
I-
do. Can you? You don't have to do it for us now, but it's clear that you do that on a handful of photos here, and looks like you're angry with the camera. And I'm wondering if that's as much of a self-portrait as your other work here.
Well, I mean, I think I have that standard face of doing self-portrait. Not self-portrait, but selfie, I would say. Like, every time I have a photo with my friends or stuff like that, I tend not to smile too much.
Yeah, I can see.
Because, when you smile too much, I personally know that, because I am a photographer, so I know which is my better side, which is my bad side. So if I smile too much, I feel that my face is very, like, round. So I tend not to smile too much. So
So it's not the real you coming through in those selfies. Hmm?
yeah, kind of like trying to look good in front of the camera is like one of my priority in selfie, not in self-portrait.
There you go. That's an interesting definition.
Yeah.
Well, it raises a really interesting question for me, which is, how do we define that difference between self-portrait and selfie, if there is a difference? And is that distinction defined by the artist or by the viewer? Because I see a lot of really amazing portraiture under the guise of selfies. It's made unselfconsciously, casually, but is hugely revelatory about the person photographing themselves, and sometimes made with great art, sometimes accidentally with great art, but nonetheless, fantastic imagery. And I have to ask, really, where do we define that distinction between self-conscious self-portraiture and self-conscious selfies?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, kind of following up on Nikki's comment, if a selfie is something very casual, will expose something deeper than a self-portrait that is staged and maybe more of a performance, as you were mentioning. And I think you would probably say that it can. And
Absolutely,
it does.
I think so, and I think it's deliberately so as well. I think that fundamentally, I feel that this whole thing around selfies is a very basic human drive. I think it's we all need to place ourselves in society. We all need to know where we fit, and for that we need affirmation. We need responses. And we all do it from birth to death. We're always looking for a response from people around us. And the selfie just allows us to do that on steroids. We can take a picture of ourselves in the Empire State Building and post it, and suddenly the whole world can see it. And we get all those reactions, and that's a massive form of self-affirmation. I think it's a very profound need.
But how does it? What is the affirmation? Just somebody saying, "I liked that you exist, that you are there right now at this moment."
It's an acknowledgement, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I suppose fundamentally we all, it's the whole the psychology of being an actor. It's like to know me is to love me.
But look, look, we all walk by windows and we catch our reflections. We pause and look to see. We check ourselves out in reflections. That's a selfie in its sense, except it's just a momentary thing in our heads. Doing it with the camera, you're just basically sharing with the world. You're carrying it to the next step. But a selfie is the same thing as just you pass by a window. Well, there I am. How do I look? You push your hair back, whatever that you're doing.
Absolutely. And I think that, there's a tremendous negativity. And, the word selfie has become almost derogatory, which I find very difficult. Because I've been taking selfies for 20, 30 years, and I'm somewhat insulted that suddenly this form that I've developed to quite a high level is...
Right.
Oh, you're the guy who started this.
It's all my fault. And... But people apply all these terms like narcissism to it, and I get very worked up about that. I have a training in psychology, and people need to look up the word narcissist online and just check out what is narcissism, because it's a quite distinct psychological condition, and it does not reflect at all this need to affirm oneself and to and indeed to observe oneself. I mean, also from my psychological background, I know that we all perform differently when we believe we're being observed, and that includes observing ourselves. People, you simply put a mirror in front of people and ask them to do a task, they'll do it differently.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So this notion of watching ourselves is very deep, it's very profound, and I object to it being cast as a negative thing. It's something we all do in different ways, and the shop window is a great example.
That's one of the things I wanted to get to. Where do you align a selfie then? I mean, if it's not a self-portrait, which of course it is to some degree, is it a variation of looking in the mirror when we test our looks and we make an expression this way, or we look at our muscles, whatever it is that we're doing?
You do that too?
We all do it, right? I mean, is it closer to that? Is it closer to the photo booth, or even as you mentioned, you're at this place, so you want to let people know you are, to the postcards I used to send postcards all the time. So what is a selfie? What is it aligned with?
Well, I think this comes back to the question I was asking Nikki earlier, which is how do people react to it? Because we might think it's a picture of ourselves, but other people may read it as something completely other. They might read it as a geographical reference, or they might see it as a sociological reference, or people will read those images in whatever way they choose, and the fact that I make myself the subject of it doesn't make me the subject of it. My intention doesn't necessarily transfer into how people read it. So the definition of a selfie, I think it's completely arbitrary. I think the arbitrary definition also extends to self-portrait. I think of Vivian Maier.
Mm-hmm.
At what point did she turn from being a maker of selfies into being an artist?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until quite a long time after she died, in fact.
Yeah.
And other people imposed that on her, rightfully so, I would say. But if one observed her behavior in Chicago all those years ago, taking pictures of herself in shop windows and in reflections, selfies, I don't know.
To me, it's in doing some research for this, her name came up time and time again, and to me, it's just so surprising how much attention she's gotten in general, and how now she's so closely affiliated with this idea of self-portraiture. And needless to say, there are many photographers out there doing things. And I looked, for me, it's Lee Friedlander. He's the person that when I first started looking at work, to say, wow, he's experimenting with this idea in a way that I really like. And but she's become the go-to person for that.
That's right. I mean, in point of fact, it's very hard to find an artist who has not made selfies.
Exactly.
In pretty much any format. I mean, obviously photography, but I don't know many sculptors have done selfies, but it's very common for painters as well. I mean, artists are conscious of we are conscious of ourselves in the world, and it's perfectly natural to position ourselves and to reflect on who we are and where we stand.
Well, I think, like Nikki said too, we have. I mean, or she kind of hinted at, we have two choices, right? When, as an artist, the world around you and yourself. So choose one or the other, and then go for it. And in your case, not wanting to kind of interact at a certain level, you chose yourself, a much easier subject.
do you consider your work to be selfies? Because I look at it, yeah, there's pictures of you. You are the photographer and you are all of the subjects in it. But I don't really get selfie from that. To me, it's sort of like Cindy Sherman. It's not, you're not looking at her, you're looking at the character she's creating. Do you feel that they're selfies, or are they just photo illustrations that you happen to be in?
Well, I don't think they are selfies. Like, selfies to me is much more casual thing, as I said.
Okay.
Like, this series, I have to plan, I have to plot, and, to make everything into what I want I would consider it as self-portrait instead. Like, you have your idea, you want to make this idea work and make this art piece like what you intend to be look like. I would say, cosplay thing, like in Japan, like they try to be into that character and take photo of it. Yeah.
And when you're taking your pictures, do you feel you're playing a character, or do you feel yourself?
Well, I mean, there's 3 characters, and one of
Right.
it is myself. So I did have to play myself, and the other 2 characters is my friends. So
Right.
I have to play their part as well.
But when you're playing you, well, actually, which one is you in those photos? I'd like to know.
I was thinking the same thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, like it's for my friends, they will know which one is me because of my
Oh, yeah?
my characters. Like Like the one in the bedroom, the one sleeping is me because I always wake up very late. I'm not
Okay.
a morning person.
So just for the listener, we're looking at one of her photos where there's the three characters in the bathroom. One is popping her head out of the shower, one is brushing her teeth, and one is on her iPad on the toilet. That's you?
no, that's
No,
my friend.
That's your
'cause-
friend.
yeah.
Okay. Which one is you?
The one in the bathroom.
In
Like
the shower.
In the shower,
Okay.
yes.
Right, I got you. All right. Cool.
We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back with more about selfies with Stephen and Nikki.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the B&H Photography Podcast. Send us a tweet at BHPhotoVideo, hashtag BHPhotoPodcast.
We are back. John, you had a question you want to ask.
I did. I wanted to follow up with Stephen about this negativity that is attributed to selfies and where you think that comes from.
I'm unsure where it comes from. I wonder whether there's an element of envy in it, that people get more exposure than I do. I really don't understand. I think there's the prevalence of it has overwhelmed people. That it's really emerged, very fast, and people assume that because a lot of it must be bad. And I find that a lot in photography in general. There's this anxiety about quantity that as soon as there's a lot of photography, people go, well, there goes the quality. We can't really filter. We don't know where we are anymore. But of course, the negativity around the selfie is much more widespread. I mean, it's not just among the photo community. People in general just sort of sniff at the selfie, while often making selfies themselves. I don't understand the negativity at all, I'm afraid.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been trying to think about it, and a couple of my notes were this idea that we're pointing the camera on ourselves, and this general anyone who's too self-absorbed, gets derided. But I tend to agree with you that we're exploring a new territory with social media and the ease with which we can take pictures, and that is a transition time, and where we're going to go with it, I'm not sure.
I think I can see certain circumstances where people can react against it. I mean, there's this phenomenon which you see now of people as they approach a celebrity, turning their back to the celebrity to take a selfie. So they're creating this little fiction of them, on the street or on wherever it is on the red carpet with a famous person. And that's ostensibly quite rude. I mean, you approach somebody and just turn your back on them,
Right.
And I can see why that might be.
I've been in situations where that's happened, but the celebrity or the athlete is absolutely prepared for that. They're expecting it almost. And I've seen it happen with my son. I went to take a picture with my son with an athlete, and the athlete said, "Give me the camera," so he wanted to do the picture himself. And I wasn't even, I was ready just to do the standard thing like this. So quickly, younger people, younger than myself, I think, and maybe Nikki can speak to it a little bit, have adapted this form immediately, and there's no issues. I mean, my daughter has no problems with selfies. Her friends send selfies back and forth 20 times a day, you know?
There's all sorts of twists on this. I mean, Michael Stipe of REM tells a story where he was in Austin, and the guy next to him turns to him, hands him a camera, and asks Stipe to take a picture of him.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it turns out to be Jeff Harris, and Jeff Harris is an artist who's famous for doing self-portraits. So he wasn't looking for a portrait with Stipe. He just wanted this guy next to him, who happened to be Jeff Stipe, Michael Stipe,
Michael Stipe.
to take a picture of him. It's an interesting twist. Yeah. And of course, there are the examples of people putting themselves at extreme risk, and that where people. A number of people have died. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in fact, when you go online, you find there's a whole genre now of like snuff selfies of this picture made moments before they died,
And you can't resist stopping what we're doing to look at those pictures.
That's right. And some of it you get very judgmental because you see there's pictures of people on motorbikes doing 100, doing a selfie, and moments later they're dead, and you go, well,
Yeah.
really.
Well, there's a couple of them when I go through my Instagram feed. There are one or two photographers, I'm calling photographers, that pop up, and all they do is selfies, but they're all the camera, the phone is being held up above eye level, and they're looking at them, and the backgrounds are not interesting, and they're really all the same. It's just pictures of the person, but I don't really. And it's endless too, and I think we're talking about why people have gripes about selfies. Personally, I think they could be a lot of fun and in a lot of different ways, but what gets me is that today's a beautiful day, and if you take a walk down 34th Street towards Macy's or anywhere Broadway, Fifth Avenue, you'll need a machete to get through the selfie sticks.
Oh, be fair. New York is a great place to visit. And I have tremendous sympathy for tourists. I mean, we're all tourists at some point in our lives. And I see people are going around New York with their selfie sticks. And I think, fantastic. They're having a great time. And why wouldn't you? I would too. In fact, I do, actually.
You got it with you. Well, I wrote an article on selfie sticks about a year ago here, and the hate just poured out. I mean, to the point of, I will never shop at B&H again now that you've sunk so low to sell selfie sticks and things like that.
How interesting.
Yeah. No.
And did people say why they object so much?
Well, there was the comment about, they're in their way, they're annoying, those kind of things. But no, they didn't. But I always just kind of tied it to this idea of the selfie and that's not real photography and this attitude, which is hard to understand.
There's another curious twist, which is, in fact, I've always found throughout my career that the more personal, the more intimate a picture is, the more it speaks to people. And I found that in stock photography, where obviously the objective is to make these generic images of almost cut out stereotypes. In point of fact, the most successful stock pictures are the ones that are the most personal, that really identify the most idiosyncratic personal behaviors. Same in journalism, same in fashion, same in art particularly, of course. That the more personal you get, even though each of us has our own very personal quirks and things, we all recognize that we have quirks, and we recognize that the quirk that you exhibit is equivalent to my quirk, although it might actually be different. We have those same behaviors. So I've always found that one of the things that I find curious about that negativity about selfies is, in fact, they do speak, and Nikki's pictures are not just about Nikki. I mean, they speak about an experience. I mean, we recognize that, and I understand what you're talking about. And you're photographing yourself, and through that you speak to me about your experience, I think.
I want to mention something about that, but I'm going to come back to that later and say this. A lot of selfies now, though, you'll see they're losing this idiosyncrasy. They're trying to copy someone else's, a celebrity selfie, or as Alan was saying, they're kind of the same thing over and over again. There's a posed face, everyone knows the duck face now. And so are they intimate, are they? Or we just need to find the ones that are intimate and then they cross over to being a self-portrait?
Well, I think that inevitably a lot of people picking up a phone are not skilled photographers and are not practiced, and they'll mimic and they'll copy. And I find that if that's your way into a creative expression, self-expression, I think that's fine. And then inevitably some of those turn out to be genius and remarkable. I think, by the way, there is a distinction between that general selfie of, here I am, this is what I'm doing, and selfies made for a very specific purpose. And you think about dating sites, for example, and such like, where people are making self-portraits or selfies, however you describe them, but with a very specific intent. And that's kind of interesting. And that's where I see a lot of creativity. I keep a collection, actually, of pictures of self-portraits I find online of people. Just amazing, amazing, amazing. And some of them very deliberately are, sculpted and created images. And some of them pretty obviously random luck, but nonetheless extraordinary images. But I think that notion of making pictures of oneself for a purpose is somewhat different from, and I think there's all these different nuances of different types.
Something that stands out in my mind is that about a year ago, I saw something in one of the online things. Somebody did a selfie. They attached, I think it was an 8x10 view camera to the end of this huge boom. And just to be able to do that, and it was really kind of funny and wonderful that there were pictures of them trying to do this. Try lifting an 8x10 camera that's 10 feet out, and then doing it. But to me, that's brilliant. Okay, and for that alone, it was worth it.
Well, I think something I wanted to mention earlier about this negativity, and maybe this comes more from the photographers, and it's the fact that a selfie, if it becomes a self-portrait, they're so easy to make. And a lot of photographers, especially now with digital photography being relatively easy, they get upset, if it's not hard, if there's not a process,
Although I must say, having made pictures of myself for dating sites myself, I find those the hardest pictures I do. I mean, I struggle with those enormously. I mean, they're really, really tough.
Well, I read, when you're reading about people putting a selfie and like, I took this shot 30 times just to get it right. And you realize it's just a simple shot in the mirror of them, but they did it over and over and over and over again to get the expression right, or, the angle of the light. And
well, it's kind of like what Nikki was saying. You got into doing this because you have this wall about going, and by the way, I understand it. I have the same thing, going over to strangers. Okay, I think that if you really want to do I don't know what we call it, a self-portrait or a selfie at this point, like you're talking about getting a picture that's going to represent you out on the site, it's maybe more difficult than going over to a stranger, because a stranger could say, no, thank you, please leave me alone. But if you want to take a good picture of yourself, you can't say, no, leave me alone. You have to go through with it. You have to deal with it.
Yes.
It's so.
Do you retake
Yeah.
over and over again until you get that right expression,
Yes.
that right moment? Yeah.
Actually, yes. Like in the apartment, I took quite a while. Like I retake and retake and retake until I got the expressions that I wanted and stuff like that. Well, for the photo in the train, which is a bit tough because like I have limited time.
Do you work by yourself, or do you have an assistant or helpers or any friends?
No, I work by myself.
It's interesting. You say that you're not happy with the expression, but there's not a single person who will be looking at that photograph who will know that you weren't happy with that expression, because it's just an expression. It's just you. And no viewer of that picture has any of the stuff that you're dealing with at all.
Yeah.
Not there.
Doesn't matter though.
It doesn't matter. But it's just interesting. I mean, you're still agonizing. It still bothers you that that's not the expression that I wanted. But to the rest of us, that's a great shot.
And the one thing I wanted to get at before is the, I guess, the dialogue that you're having, because as you mentioned in the write-up around these photos, it has to do with missing home and being in a new place and missing your friends, and it's a way of connecting with your old self, and to some degree. Is there anything you can speak on that, and you're commenting with your friends and?
Yeah, like everything is so different from Singapore, and people here is much more like very hard to approach. Singaporeans are much more approachable, I would say. Well, while doing this series, I feel that, I kind of homesick and I miss my friends and stuff like that. So I decided to implement like my friends in the city. Like that's why in the series of photos, there's no strangers at all. Like, I try to find places that there's no like other New Yorkers or people in my shot, so that I'm in this space with just my friends.
Do you think that you could have done this series if you had been still in Singapore, or maybe even in another city other than New York?
Well, I would like to continue this series, like just me and my friends in different locations. But while in Singapore, I think it's a bit tough because Singapore is very crowded nowadays. Like you can't find an empty train or an empty spot to. Or when you go out for dinner, or to find an empty table to shoot just you and your friends without other strangers in the background.
The one thing I also wanted to mention is living in a city, especially where the language is not your language, and I've done that. To me, it was the most creative time for me photographically, and partly for that reason, because
I agree.
You avoid the conversations because they're difficult, and you focus on your eyes and your visual and what you see around you, and it enabled me 6 great years of photography when I did that.
I used to. I have to agree with John about that. I used to travel a lot more than I do now, but I found some of my most amazing experiences were being with people whose language I did not speak, and it's amazing how you find ways to communicate. And if anything, I think my experiences and the pictures I was taking were probably better for that very reason. By the way, the trick of photographing in New York City is just stay away from native New Yorkers. They're all miserable and mean.
Nah.
Just talk to all of the visitors that are coming. I'm just...
Ouija famously said New York is a friendly town, and he's right.
I think it is very friendly.
Yeah, New Yorkers pride themselves on being mean and nasty, and they're absolutely not.
No. We open up after
It's just
30 seconds.
It's one of those kind of debates that I have in my head all the time about is New York nice? Is it not? And I find New Yorkers very nice. It's just that you have to do it on their speed, just be nice, but within about the 10 seconds that I'm going to give you,
It's how you connect. It's really how you connect.
My practice has been to make at least one picture every day throughout my last 20, 25 years or so. And it becomes like a sort of meditation on where I am and all the rest of it. And very often I just hold my camera at arm's length and take a picture of wherever I am. And what I realized when I looked at them, because I make them all in exactly the same format, it's my arm's length using a 35mm lens, they're all identical. And it's hilarious because you look at this progression across 20 years and it's the same picture and I just get older.
Yeah.
And it's actually fantastic.
You should make a
I'm-
flip book.
I'm thinking exactly that. The background changes and my beard gets longer, shorter, and I think it's going to be a great flip book.
Well, it's interesting because that's one of the things if you're using a similar camera or a phone is that there are a lot of parameters that stay set. You have a set distance, which means that you are the same size in the frame. The perspective is the same, but everything in the background is what's changing. And that could be what makes it interesting in the variables. Just the fact that you have these very fixed parameters with a lot of little things going on within them that change, the fluidity of that.
That's right. It makes me laugh when I look at it because it's actually very funny. Cause it's this unchanging face, well, apart from the wrinkles, but that background from Shanghai to Tokyo, Dubai, and New York, it's just like, wow.
Have you developed your selfie face? Do you know which expression?
Yes,
it's always the same expression.
It's always the same expression. And it's absolutely. It's like like Martin Parr's. You look at his selfies. It's like rigid.
Yeah. And is there any photographers, let's say from the pre-selfie era, or going back even to I don't know the 19th century, that spoke to this idea? I mean, or whose self-portraiture was something that we would now equate with a selfie? Is there anything any progenitors of this?
That's a really interesting idea. I mean, of course, one of the very first recorded images, or recorded fixed images, is of course a selfie. And of course, I'm going to embarrass myself now by forgetting the name, but the artist photographed himself as a drowned body. One of the very, very first pictures in actually recorded as a photograph. So I think it's a very deep and profound element. Whether we define it as selfies or not, I think that's an entirely whimsical decision.
That's kind of what I want to get at with this show is how can we distinguish a selfie from a self-portrait? And
where do you draw that line?
I mean, I threw out the idea of it's something that we share it. It's on social media, but that doesn't fit. That doesn't work. I mean,
no, I don't know where the line is at all because Nicky talked about the casualness, and that can be an element.
The attitude of where was your head the moment you did that? Because there's a spontaneity to a selfie. I believe that a self-portrait slows you down. Now you're contriving the image, whereas a selfie is a little bit more loosey-goosey. Is that fair to say?
I'm not sure that it's fair at all because that casual snapshot, for want of a better word, can produce the most extraordinary art, and the most studied self-portrait can be ghastly.
Points taken. Okay.
It's I don't know. I think it's in the eye of the beholder. I think we know it when we see it.
So a self-portrait then is art. It's something we can't really put our finger on, but we've realized that it goes deeper. And a selfie is just is not. It's something that we make, we throw, we look at, and that's that.
I think so, and it's extraordinary. It goes all the way back to people who do work with found photography and digging up these old family albums and pictures of people staring into the camera, and they had a meaning one time 50 years ago, and they have a completely different meaning now. I think these things are all fluid. It's what we bring to it, and that's the wonderful thing about photography is the photographer's intent is significant, but actually the most important thing is what do we bring to it as viewers? When we look at a picture, we're imposing our experience. It's our memory speaking to us through that picture. Mm-hmm. It's our recognition.
So we haven't gotten to a definition of a selfie yet, but where do you think this idea of selfie will be going in the next 10 years, let's say? Do you think we're going to get bored with ourselves and start sending other things back and forth?
Well, I think there's, talking in terms of gradations and distinctions, there's, I think, a distinction between the making of the selfie and the publishing of the selfie. And it might be that we'll publish less, maybe because there's just so much opprobrium and disaffection with that. But I think we always have done self-portraits in one way or another, and we always will. And
vanity and ego are not going anywhere.
I think it's beyond vanity and ego.
I think it's we're talking about
self-expression. It's fun.
It's self-exploration
that's
too.
Self-exploration, better.
Who we are and where we come from,
That's
where
right.
we're going. Yeah.
But we might not always choose to publish it. And I must say, my selfies remain in print. They're not online, and they never will be. So
In print. Not until you never know what happens when you're gone.
you never know when I'm gone. Exactly.
But Well, the other thing is we didn't really talk about technology that enables the selfie, And the other day with Snapchat, someone was taking our picture, and the next step is to add a filter, to add a hat, add stars coming out of your mouth, and all these things. So it's getting Baroque already. No, I don't know.
That's hilarious. I mean, Snapchat, of course, brings a whole fresh dynamic to this whole process.
Yeah.
You were asking about the future, and that is obviously an area which interests me a lot because I talk about it a lot. And you're talking about this notion of adding, embellishing pictures, and that is going to become increasingly significant. That the more people I talk to who are at the cutting edge of photography, the notion of machine learning, artificial intelligence, those concepts are now really at the forefront of thinking and of forward-thinking photographers or people making imagery. And therefore, that notion of an intelligent image, which is more than just a record, where the machine is bringing learned information back into the photograph or processing the picture in a particular way, we're going to be seeing more and more and more and more of that. And where that takes our self-expression is going to be really interesting. And I've said, one of the lines I've used before is I think that increasingly we'll be seeing pictures not of what we see, but of what we think.
Well, thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Steve. And thank you, John and Jason, our producers. And a special thanks to Jill Waterman, who helped us organize this episode. Check out Nikki's work at nikkiwanzi.com and Stephen's work at www.stephenmays.co. Give us your opinions on Twitter at BHPhotoVideo with the hashtag BHPhotoPodcast. And please rate and leave a review on iTunes. On behalf of John, Jason, and myself, thank you so much for joining us today.